Much better, but a little better.
All gonna have bad tonight.
First order, call this meeting to order.
Alderman Bass,
Here.
Alderman Cleaver,
Here.
Alderman Headley,
Here.
Alderman Knox,
Here.
Alderman Mills,
Here.
Alderman Stratton.
Here.
There's a quorum.
Third item, Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alderman Bob Headley. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item, approval of agenda.
No changes, Mayor.
Thank you. Next item, proclamation, seeing none. Next item, citizens' participation. If anyone would like to address the board, please limit your comments to 2 minutes. State your name and address as you.
Last Wednesday, we donated $440 to the food pantry. So I appreciate those who take the time and drop them off or hand them to me when I'm out walking. And I've got another batch I got as soon as I bag them. I'm pretty sure we're going to be close. But no, I'll be here. You all take care. Thank you.
We appreciate everything you've done, Nancy, and all you continue to do. No one else? Next item of business, previous business, seeing none. Next item of business, Mayor Pro Tem and Board Liaisons appointments.
Consent agenda. Do we do a consent agenda?
Oh, I checked it and didn't say. I'm sorry. Next item, consent agenda.
Mayor, I move we accept the consent agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Knox. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All in favor or in opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion carries 6-0. Next item, as I said before, previous business, seeing none. Next item, new business, Pro Tem Board Liaisons appointments. Who has the sheet? Everything is staying the same as previous. Planning and zoning will be Alderman Headley. Park board will be Alderman Stratton. Schools will be Alderman Cleaver. Mayor Pro Tem will be Alderman Bass. Police advisory board will be Alderman Bass. All right, on Mayor Pro Tem, apparently I need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Alderman Headley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Cleaver. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion carries 6-0. Okay. Next item, presentation.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay? I think so. Yep. You have slides in front of you. So, Mayor and members of the board, tonight I want to talk to you about place branding. And we do plan, if I can, I'm just going to take this off. We do plan to issue an RFP at the end of the week around place branding. So tonight I wanted to spend some time just defining what that is so you have an idea before we come back with a resolution later towards the summer regarding the topic. So I wanted to take you back to the fall when we had Corey Shear come in for strategic planning. And one of the very first things this board and staff did was talk about what's great about Green Valley. So that's a question that Corey asked us, and this is the list that we came up with. And tonight I want to challenge you to look at that list a little bit differently. We talked about the proximity to I-70 was great, the quality of schools was great, the growth of Green Valley was great, and all of these things. But tonight I want you to look at this list and think, could you identify only Green Valley based on looking at this list? And I think when you look at this list, you could probably identify a handful of communities in the Kansas City region and probably across the United States that could also say these exact same things about their city. When you are in consumer marketing and you're marketing a product to someone, you typically have 3 to 6 direct competitors. When you're a city, there are about 20,000 cities in the United States, and the majority of those are smaller cities. And so as we're looking in Green Valley to draw investors and residents, and even travelers to Green Valley, we really are competing in a way that can and should be compared to the corporate world. And Americans are in a message overload right now. We have 4,000 to 10,000 sales messages being thrown at us each day. And the reaction to that is to really shut down and just kind of block out all those intrusions. So should we be saturating that market with more and more messages, or should we be working to really clear up what we want to say and say it better and more concise? And the corporate world is doing that, and cities should really be looking at doing that as well. And in the city world, that's really called place branding. So back in the fall, the majority of this board and staff worked to come up with this strategic plan. And if you'll remember, place branding or brand identity was one of the main 3 areas we said we wanted to work through. And in that strategic plan, we identified that Green Valley had a lack of a clear identity. And we talked about how the rapid growth of the city didn't allow us to really develop an organic sense of place. But we also knew that people love their experiences with Green Valley, and the sentiment for Green Valley is here. And place branding will really give us the opportunity to define that. So I am going to pull up a quick video. I do want you to know it is from a marketing company. It's not one I've had any experience with. I just kind of like the way they take their words and define what place branding is. So I'm going to just show you like the first minute and a half of it or so. the video here. And I want to just sum it up too, because I know sometimes those words move fast on that screen, but I also like this definition. So a place brand is the totality of thoughts, feelings, and expectations that people hold about a location. It's the character, reputation, and the enduring essence of a place, and it represents its distinctive promise of value and sense of place. So a brand is intangible thoughts and feelings of a place. It exists in the consumer's mind. And really, if you can just think of it as the relationship between a person and Green Valley, that's really all it is. And I know we have spent a ton of time, probably enough to make some of you nauseous, talking about logos in this room and whether to adopt a new logo or not. And so I want you to think about it today that this is not just about a logo. A brand is not a logo. And it's not really any of these things on the list. It is a piece of the piece of work that we're going to enter into at some point. But really, at the end of the day, if you think about it, your brand is your reputation, and the marketing piece, the logo, the tagline, all of those things is how you communicate and how you choose to communicate your reputation. But the brand itself is the spirit and the unique sense of place that already exists in your community. It's just finding it and pulling it out from what's already there. So place brands are like people. And I like this slide. I like to think about it. A place without a clear identity and an appealing identity is like a person with a dull or bland personality. They kind of blend into the crowd and they don't get any attention or respect. And your brand should bring out what's unique about you. And what's important is to not just try to replicate what's going on next door. And a lot of towns kind of fall into that trap, right? They see something that's working at the town next to them, or someone goes on vacation and sees a really cool event or a really cool project, and they try to bring that back to their city. And then what happens is you have a bunch of cities that all start to look the same. And that may work for a while, but it's trendy and it's catchy, and it's only going to last for a little bit, and then it fails and you have to try to start over. And that's not what a brand is. A brand is what's unique to you and what you can see that's already working. And I like to say we've kind of fallen into this great place to live, work, and play trap. And if you go to our website, you'll see that Green Valley is a great place to live, work, and play. And while that's true, you can get on Google and find that Green Valley, along with about 4 million other hits of cities that are a great place to live, work, and play, it's not unique. It doesn't really say who we are. It's generic. And what that's created for us is we've really in the last year and a half tried to promote ourselves and increase our work in economic development and all those things. It's created a challenge. What makes us different? And why would you pick Green Valley over anywhere else when everywhere is a great place to live, work, and play? And so my challenge and our challenge is to find out who is Green Valley and what do we have that no one else does and what makes us different. And I put all these these are logos. Yes, I'll give you that. These are definitely logos up here. But what they are is logos that have a brand that's solid behind them. And the brand is something that doesn't work unless you have a firm foundation. All of these have firm foundations behind them. Cities aren't startups. They already have residents, they have businesses, they have a history, and they have a culture behind them. And they work best, the brands do, when you build from these things that are already there. If you try to shift away from those and try to catch what's trendy, you're going to have something that's inauthentic and it will fail. People won't resonate with it. And you have to find what the community will embrace. And the brand, and what I'm looking and hoping we find for Green Valley is something that the community will embrace. Our brand shouldn't be locked up in City Hall. It should be something that the community takes on and uses as their own as well. Businesses should embrace it. Our community group should embrace it. You want to see your brand on t-shirts. You want to see it on storefronts. You want it to become something that's really known as your community brand, such as the Charlie Hustle logo that Kansas City has now adopted. So as we look to create a brand for Green Valley, we want to look at these things. How can we redefine and strengthen how Green Valley is standing apart? How do we foster a more accurate and contemporary image of Green Valley? How do we generate and improve our results for tourism, economic development, and growth residentially? And how do we stimulate the community pride and renewed sense of purpose that we all know is there? And I've talked a lot about how brands are intangible, but there are tangible results and tangible benefits for all these sectors, business, visitors, and the community. I'm not going to go through each of these. I hope you all take time to go read it later. But what I want you to take from this slide is, although it's intangible, there are positive, tangible things that come once you start branding and putting time into it. And a brand is a strategy. So a city's image, and I think most cities probably are in this boat, a city's image and reputation often go unrecognized, underappreciated, and unmanaged. We spend a lot of time talking about the concrete things in the day-to-day operations of the city, the roads, the safety of our citizens, the codes enforcements, and all those things are super important, but none of them matter if we aren't relevant and if we don't have people living in our city and people that want to come and visit our city. And that comes from our image and our reputation. And so it makes sense that we should be strategizing and nurturing and managing our reputation so all those things stay relevant as well. And if we're not investing in managing our image, we're leaving others to do that for us. And that's others in the media, social media, and all those ad hoc images out there are presenting a disjointed image of who we are. And this is a great example of this. So what this is an excerpt, a redacted one, of actually a local community who has undergone the branding process. And what they've done is surveyed different residents, not just from their city, but from cities around. And they said, we're going to give you 5 different cities, and we want to hear what you think about those cities. And this is what happens when you don't manage your brand. This is what people think about these cities, and most of these things are unflattering. And I would suspect, like these cities, if we haven't been managing our brand, some of the things we might see are off of social media. We might see dandelions and train tracks and trash collection problems. And of course, I say that in jest, but as we begin to take back our brand, these are the things I think we should consider. What do we want to be known for? How do we stand out in a crowd and be more competitive? And what thoughts and feelings do we want people to have come to mind when they think of Grand Valley? Not only does this help us define our brand, but it also helps us draft our 6-month goals, which is what we do inside City Hall every 6 months for our strategic plan. So why is now the time, and why is now any different than the last couple times we've talked about new logos? Well, I said before, this is about more than a logo. It's really about an investment in Grand Valley's future. And any one of these strategies on here indicates that it's time to talk about a brand strategy. And I've bolded a few that I think are particularly important for us now. The first one, an outdated or inaccurate image. I think we probably have all heard that people maybe on the south side of the town don't make it up north. Maybe they don't know about the growth that's going on up north. And maybe people up north haven't seen all the new development that's heading down south. And just in general, do people know all the new restaurants, the new trails, the new subdivisions going in? Do we have an accurate portrayal of what Grand Valley is, even with our own residents, let alone outside of our city? And the second bullet, it's unclear what the city stands for and what particularly differentiates it. And if we go back to that very beginning list, do we even know what differentiates us from other cities? The third bullet, there's no agreement on the city's positioning, brand platform, or messages. And I wouldn't say necessarily that there's no agreement on it, but do we even have a brand platform, and has that work ever been done? And the fourth bullet, the presentation of the city lacks unity, focus, or consistency. I think we're just at a point where we've grown so fast that we're not sure where we're at. Are we a growing city or are we a small town? And there's a lot of conversation that could be had around that. And then the last one I've bolded, just a lack of synergy between lead organizations and its partners when presenting the city. Again, not that we're at a point where there's a lack of synergy. I think we have a fantastic relationship with all of our partners. I think it's more continuing that synergy as we look to present Grand Valley together in a uniformed message. So where do we go from here to achieve success? It's really a research-based approach. And we've spent some time talking to lots of cities who have done this process, also various groups who do this work. And they've all kind of gone through the same process. And it's quantitative and qualitative data. So quantitative is giving us the hard numbers. Qualitative is putting the voices together for that. And And it's really important to engage outsiders. I think most of you felt when we brought Corey Shear in for the strategic planning process, that was helpful. It got us away from our bias, helped us get outside our boxes, and really pushed us to get beyond maybe where we would have stayed if we hadn't had him. And then the active stakeholder engagement. We all know that projects are most successful when we get others involved and get the citizens behind it. But not only the citizens, because this is about looking to bring outsiders in as well, because it's important to us that not just our residents, but we have people from outside the region coming and visiting, shopping, visiting our events and more, and possibly looking to move and work in Green Valley at some point as well. So our next steps are to issue the RFP on Thursday, I believe is the date for that. Responses will come back in June, and then we'll look at reviewing and doing the interviews. And Alderman Bass has agreed to serve on that committee and be your voice on the board for that. And then once we've felt we have a qualified candidate, we will present a resolution to the board to move forward with the process from there. Any questions? All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, public hearing. Oh, okay. First item up, zoning changes request for Creekside Villas.
Need a bigger platform.
Thing that wasn't your laptop.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the board, can everyone hear me?
There you go.
Mark Trozen, Director of Community Development. The first public hearing before you pertains to Creekside Villas. Mr. Jeff Handy is requesting a change of zoning on approximately 3.15 acres from District C1 Central Business District to R3P Multifamily Residential District Planned Overlay District. The development site is generally located west of Snybar Parkway on the north side of Snybar Boulevard. I have the development plan. Let me just show you the general area. This is Snybar Parkway. This is Snybar Boulevard. The proposed development is outlined in the area by the arrow that I'm describing. The property owner is CIK Properties LLC. Mr. Handy has a real estate contract with CIK Properties to purchase the property. As indicated above, the property is currently zoned District C1 and is platted into 8 lots known as Creekside Landing First Plat. Each of these lots could potentially have a driveway onto Snybar Boulevard for a commercial structure if each one was built on each lot. There was no condition or restriction placed on the plat that required the lots to have a shared driveway. In staff's opinion, this many lots with driveways having direct access onto a collector street could cause potential vehicular conflict. In regards to the city's comprehensive plan, the preferred land use map in the city's comprehensive plan illustrates this area as multifamily. The proposed change in zoning and development plan is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. Furthermore, reducing the number of driveway access points to the 3 proposed driveways as shown on the development plan onto collector streets such as Snybar Boulevard supports the policy of moving the traffic from the residential driveway areas and parking lot to arterial streets with minimal conflicts within the driveways. Mr. Handy has filed an application for a change of zoning and the preliminary development plan for 26 multifamily units to be known as Creekside Villas. Mr. Handy states that the target occupant will be 55 or older. Each unit will be 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, all on 1 level. Each unit will include 1,000 square feet with a covered front and back porch. The exterior will be all brick and have a 35-year asphalt shingle. Mr. Handy states that Creekside Villas will be a maintenance-provided community. The planned overlay district shall be for the purpose of permitting and regulating the zoning districts in the zoning regulations, such as District R3 multifamily, but it provides the latitude and flexibility in regards to the location of the buildings, the structures, the open spaces, the parking, the drives, and variations in the setback and yard requirements. The Planning and Zoning Commission can consider each plan individually and make its recommendations to the Board of Aldermen, which then can decide as to the approval or disapproval of the plan. In reviewing the preliminary development plan for Creekside Villas, staff had the following comments, and they're listed in the staff report that's before you. Between the Planning Commission public hearing and the public hearing before you, the applicant revised the preliminary development plan per the comments of staff, per the recommendation of the Planning Commission, and therefore this is a revised plan that's before you today based on staff's comments, based on the recommendation of the Plan Commission. So I'm just going to highlight those comments in this regards of the revised preliminary development plan. The first comment pertained to the proposed setback requirement. Along the front setback requirement along Snybar Boulevard, the applicant is requesting a 25-foot front building line setback along Snybar Boulevard. In District R3, the minimum front yard setback is 30 feet. However, as I stated above, the planned overlay district allows the commission the flexibility to adjust that yard requirement. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended the approval of the 25-foot front yard setback. In regards to item number 5 under the staff's comment, in district planned overlay district, the minimum setback requirement between the parking lot and the rear yard setback is 10 feet. The applicant has revised the site development plan to show that setback on this proposed development plan. So the parking lot next to the R2's district has been revised to show that 10-foot setback. In addition, in a planned overlay district, it requires that a wall or fence be added that's 6 foot tall, as well as landscaping that provides an ornamental screen along that R2 zoning. That has been added to this preliminary development plan. The preliminary stormwater layout has been added to this revised drawing. Staff's recommendation that the proposed trees along Snybar Boulevard be moved back out of the easement where the water line is and closer to where the buildings are. That revision has been made to this proposed drawing. The question in regards to will this development be serviced by either master water meters or individual water meters has been answered. It will be individual water meters as proposed for this proposed development. The staff recommends approval of the rezoning and preliminary development plan for Creekside Villas. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on April 14th. The commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval on the rezoning and the preliminary development plan for Creekside Villas with staff comments, the acceptance of the 25-foot building line setback, and also add a deed restriction of a 55 and older community. That concludes staff's report. Are there any questions?
So-
The applicant is present in the audience, Mr. Jeff Handy.
So the deed restriction for 55 and over, what does that mean? That I know it means, you know, it has to be 55 and over, but is there a time frame on that? Is there, you know, like, is it 10 years? Is that until they come back and ask to change it? How's the deed?
Well, the intent would be in perpetuity of the proposed development. There was no time limit in regards to that. I believe the applicant would like to address the board in regards to that restriction because he has some suggestions in regards to how this proposed development will be managed.
And then the second question was, what type of fence? You said a 6-foot fence was supposed to go around on the backside. What type of fence?
This will be I don't want to speak for the applicant, but I believe he was proposing a vinyl fence in the back along that property.
It'll either be vinyl or a 6-foot privacy wood fence, either or.
And in addition to that will be, as you can see, it will be trees and other landscaping to provide a ornamental screening along that rear property line.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Handy? Is there some type of contingency in there? Say one of the residents passes away, and is inherited by their younger relatives. Can the younger relatives take over the deed, or are they forced to? Sure, please.
First of all, Jeff Handy, the applicant. That question, with the 55 and older, one person has to be 55 or older to live in that residence. And then you couldn't have kids come in that are 55 and older and take over that residence, no.
Okay, so
It has to be
they'd have
someone
to,
that's 55 and older that lives
so
there.
they'd have to sell then.
Because you have some people maybe 55, and they have a 42-year-old spouse, whatever, that's allowed.
Oh, understand that.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the case of the passing of the resident, and
Yeah,
it's
no.
inherited by the,
There's a lot of laws on that, but they have, but technically 10 days to come in and remove everything. Yeah,
Okay.
they could not come in and take over the residence.
okay.
Will these be purchased by the individuals or rented?
No, that's one thing that I wanted to say. I'm the builder, and I'm going to be building it, and I'm going to keep them.
Okay.
So I don't propose to have an HOA or any deed restrictions since I'm keeping them. So I'm going to put the 55 and older restriction in my lease. So that's how I'll propose to do that.
And then what about if any of them have kids or grandkids living with them?
Well,
Is that allowed?
Yeah, that is allowed, but they have to be over the age of 18. So you can't have anybody under the age of 18 that would be living there. As
Okay.
long as one person is at least 55 or older.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much. Next item, request to amend city comprehensive plan for future land use map.
Did you open the floor for public comments? I'm sorry. Did you open the floor for
Oh,
public comments?
I didn't. It is a public meeting, so any comments from the spectators? Seeing none, we'll move on to the request for amended city comprehensive plan. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, we'll close the first public hearing on zoning request for Creekside Villas and open the hearing for request to amend city comprehensive plan for future land use map.
Mr. Mayor and members of the board, Mark Trozen, Director of Community Development. The applicant is Mr. Jeff Handy. He's requesting an amendment to the comprehensive plan future land use map. The purpose of this request is to amend the future land use map titled Preferred Land Use Plan that is in the city's comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan was last updated in August of 2014. There is a section in the city code 400.335 that amends the process of the comprehensive plan future land use map in chapter 400 zoning regulations of the city's municipal code that outlines the process and criteria for the review. The city's comprehensive plan contains a preferred land use plan. The land use plan presents a vision of how the community will grow in the future and where future land uses will be located. This plan illustrates land use types such as single-family, multifamily, business park, commercial retail, mixed use, and recreation open space. The preferred land use plan illustrates the approximate 5.5 acres referenced in the application as open space recreation. The exhibit that's before you today shows the proposed 5.5 acres that the applicant is requesting that be changed from open space recreation to multifamily. The preferred land use plan shows the area to the north being multifamily, the area to the north of Snybar Boulevard being multifamily, the area to the south would remain open space recreation. Within the criteria, there is factors that should be considered when looking at a proposed change. Those factors are listed in the staff report that's before you. In a moment, I'll discuss those changes. Regarding those four factors, staff finds the following. The future land use map illustrates the area that's shown on the exhibit before you, the surrounding areas as multifamily, and therefore the proposed change would be consistent with the surrounding areas that are already multifamily. In regards to factor 2, in a conversation with the Parks and Recreation Director, Shannon Davies, the Parks Board has no plans to develop a park or any other recreational amenity in this area. The city deeded property around the creek in this area to Habitat Missouri LLC to be maintained as a wetland conservation area in exchange for a trail along Blue Branch between Buckner-Charsney Road and Eagles Parkway. Number 3, the proposed land use map amendment is consistent with public policy for the locations of the proposed land uses. And fourth factor in the consideration for a change, the public services and utilities are available on site and are adequate to serve the proposed land use in the proposed map amendment. Staff recommends approval to amend the preferred land use map in the city's comprehensive plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on Wednesday, April 14th, 2021. The commission unanimously voted to recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen. Are there any questions?
So this is going across the street.
Yes, and I should have stated that the public hearing following this public hearing pertains to the request for the change in zoning and the development of what is to be known as Creekside Commons.
And is this going to be 55 and over?
Yes,
Deeded that way?
yes. Well, controlled in a proposed lease agreement as well.
And what about parking? Street parking, or I noticed obviously we got parking there, but
Off-street parking,
off-street parking? So there will no be on-street parking?
no on-street parking. In fact, parking, they have more than the required parking off-street.
Will these be sprinklered?
We haven't got to the code requirements, so these haven't been reviewed as far as from a building code standpoint.
Additional questions? Thank you. It is public hearing. Again, any comments from this audience? Seeing none, I'll close this portion of the public hearing. Open next portion for zoning changes, request to Creekside Commons. There is.
Getting your steps in.
Could have stayed there.
Mayor, members of the board, Trozen, Development Director. The last and final public hearing before you is an application from Mr. Jeff Handy requesting a change of zoning on approximately 5.48 acres from District A, agricultural, to R3P, multifamily residential district, planned overlay district. The development site is generally located west of Snybar Parkway this is Snybar Boulevard, so this would be on the south side of Snybar Boulevard. Property owner is CIK Properties LLC. Mr. Handy has a real estate contract with CIK Properties to purchase the property. We just had the public hearing in regards to the city's comprehensive plan, so I'll skip that section of the staff report. The purpose is to do a development very similar to the proposed development on the north side. So I'll skip that section of it. The proposed is 2-bedroom units, 1 bath, to be 55 years or older. But this development will be known as Creekside Commons. This is also to be a planned overlay district. So again, the planned overlay district provides that flexibility in regards to setback requirements. And in a moment, we'll talk about some of those flexibilities in regards to this proposed development. So the first one that I want to point out was when we originally received this proposal, that didn't include the entire parcel for this property. The applicant then amended the proposed development plan and included the entire parcel. The parcel actually comes farther to the east along Snybar Boulevard and then south along Snybar Parkway. So all the way down to this part. So that now has been included as part of this entire development proposal. In regards to comment number 3, the applicant is requesting the same flexibility in regards to the change in the front yard setback. The typical front yard setback in District R3 is 30 feet. The applicant is requesting a 25-foot yard setback. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of that 25-foot building line setback. In regards to comment number 5, this building, which is referenced as building number 13, the rear yard setback in District R3 is a 30-foot setback. As you can see, that does not comply with a 30-foot setback. However, the Planning and Zoning Commission is recommending approval of that setback, primarily because there is no proposed development in the rear of this, nor is there any proposed development that will probably ever occur in this area, because this is property that's owned by Habitat Missouri and is in that wetland conservation area. In regards to parking, Mr. Cleaver, that you had brought up, let me point out that for multifamily units, the parking space requirement is 2 spaces per unit. There are 35 units. The required number of spaces is 70 spaces. This proposed plan is illustrating 84 parking spaces. So there's 14 spaces over the required 70 spaces. In regards to the planned overlay district, since this proposed development is adjacent to residential development, the applicant has amended the plan to include the 6-foot screening of a vinyl or wood fence that would be required, as well as shown that there will be also landscaping to provide that ornamental screening that is adjacent to that residential development. In regards to sidewalk along Snybar Parkway and Boulevard, in addition to, so there will be a sidewalk all along Snybar Boulevard, that will extend even down the parkway, the entire length of the parcel. But in addition to that, the developer is extending the sidewalk where there currently is no sidewalk, even in the development, up to Willow Drive. The preliminary development plan as it's amended shows the preliminary sanitary and stormwater layout. As requested by staff, the landscaping has been removed from the utility easements so that we don't have any conflicts with utility easements and landscaping growing and being a conflict in the future. The proposed development will be served by individual water meters. The staff recommends approval of the rezoning and preliminary development plan for the Creekside Commons. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on Wednesday, April 14th. The commission unanimously voted to recommend approval with staff recommendations, acceptance of the 25-foot building line setback, acceptance of the rear yard setback for Building 13, and added a deed restriction of 55 and older community. Are there any questions in regards to the staff report?
I do have a question, possibly for you or Ken. Playing devil's advocate here. If you have two, like a couple living in a unit and then they have an adult child and there's 2 parking places per unit and 3 vehicles, if parking were to become an issue there, would those kind of complaints be something that the city would be responsible for? Or would they go to Mr. Handy to be responsible for handling that kind of stuff?
Since Mr. Handy will be the landlord, they would go to the landlord.
Okay.
I had a question on the sidewalk to the east side there. Does that go all the way down to the creek?
It will be close to the creek. There is a parcel between there and the creek that's still undeveloped, but it will be very close to the creek.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you.
And I
Go
should
ahead.
add, Mr. Mayor, as property additionally develops along the parkway, sidewalks would be added.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Since that's a public hearing, again, any questions from the audience?
Typically, the responsibility of snow removal of the sidewalk is the property owner, as by ordinance. Well, I think typically there's been well, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but it's been a policy of the city that, well, I'll let you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, the sidewalks are typically in the right of way, and we maintain both streets and sidewalks in the right of way.
Once they're installed.
Correct.
Okay, no questions from the audience. I'll close this portion of the public hearing. Next item, resolutions. Resolution R 21-31, a resolution by the Board of Aldermen authorizing the city administrator to lease a skid steer for the Public Works Division. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we approve resolution R 21-31.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Headley. Any discussion? Or-
Mayor, members of the board, this was a budgeted item, and if you remember, for the last, I think, 6 or 7 years at least, we have leased a skid steer instead of purchased it, and it's worked out to this point anyway, from a maintenance standpoint, to be beneficial to us. But this is the second of 3 years of that original agreement, so that's what you have before you. This will be the same thing that we have now.
Additional questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion carries 6-0. Next item, ordinances. First, item B 21-11.
I move that we accept the first
Nope,
reading.
nope. Don't you-
Yes. An ordinance changing the zoning on approximately 3.15 acres from District C1 Central Business District to R3P Multifamily Residential District Planned Overlay District, and approval of preliminary development plan for Creekside Villas.
Okay, now I move that we accept the first reading of bill number B 21-11 and bring it back for its second reading by title only at our next regular session.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Knox. Any discussion?
Mayor and members of the board, if you can remember back that far, this was the first of the public hearings on the night. So this was the development that would be on the north side of Snybar Boulevard.
No further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion carries 6-0. Next item, B 21-12.
This is an ordinance to amend the future land use map in the 2014 comprehensive plan.
Mayor, I move that we accept the first reading of bill number B 21-12 and bring it back for its second reading by title only at our next regular session.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Alderman Stratton. Any discussion?
Mayor, members of the board, this would be for the land on the south side of Snybar Boulevard. So changing the future land use map in the comprehensive plan would allow for the zone change to follow.
No further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion carries 6-0. Next item, B 21-13.
An ordinance changing the zoning on approximately 5.5 acres from District A Agricultural District to R3P Multifamily Residential District Planned Overlay District, and approval of preliminary development plan for Creekside Commons.
Mayor, I move that we accept the first reading of bill number B 21-13 and bring it back for its second reading by title only at our next regular session.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Mills. Any discussion?
Mayor and members of the board, this would be the zone change for that land on the south side of Snybar Boulevard.
No further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion carries 6-0. Next item, city attorney's report.
Mayor, members of the board, just wanted to report that, as you know, we do our annual city official training conferences. We have completed 3 of the 5 that we offer each year right after the election. We do have one more in this area, so I'm not sure if there's anybody that still was interested in attending one of those. It will be in Platte County on this coming Friday. So if there is anybody that would still like to go and go to the Platte County location, that we would need to know that by Wednesday. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Next item, city administrator and staff reports.
Turn it over to Mr. Davies.
Mayor and board, usually this time of year I give a little report on our youth baseball softball season. We actually started boys baseball games this past week. Started girls softball games tonight. So wanted to report that we're playing. Again, a year ago, everything was closed down, shut down. Nothing was running due to the pandemic. So it's nice to see our spring sports back in full swing.
And the only other thing kind of building, I guess, on what Mr. Davies had said was, if you all had seen the last revised order from Jackson County, there was quite a few changes to that as far as basically doing away with outdoor restrictions. So that's one thing that's going to be very beneficial to us, especially from a Parks and Rec perspective with the pool and community center, or activities that we have around the community center to give us a little more flexibility and hopefully get some events back going and bigger than what we had to deal with over the last year. And as you are aware, we don't have any dividers in here now, and other than the mask, it kind of feels like a regular, good old board meeting, so that's a positive, I guess. And that was all the reports we had, Mayor.
Next item, Board of Aldermen and reports. Alderman Bass.
I have nothing other than, Mayor, appreciate the renewed appointment for Pro Tem. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cleaver,
Nothing at this time.
Alderman Headley,
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Alderman Knox,
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Mills,
Nothing at this time.
Alderman Stratton.
Just want to tell Teresa, I like that presentation. Thank you for putting that together. And as we go through it, if there's any way I can help with it, I'm happy to do so. Other than that, I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
My comments, we had a very nice presentation over at the Pathways of Honor last week. I want to appreciate everybody that contributed that, everybody that took part in the planning of it, and that's all I have. I don't believe there's a need for executive session. That being said, meeting dismissed. Adjourned.
Sir?
Certainly.